Yes, good morning children. How are you all? All right. So in the last class we had studied about different types of mixtures and various methods of separating the mixtures. Hope all of you remember that and enjoy the classes. Now, and you had also studied about different types of mixtures, homogeneous mixture, heterogeneous mixture, colloids, salts and all different types of mixtures. And we had also, I have performed some experiments for you. Hope all of you have done it at home by dissolving the salt or by doing chromatographic experiment and all. And at the same time, later we have studied about various methods of separating mixtures. What are mixtures? Actually, they are impure substances made up of more than one kind of substances in it, components which are present in it, and they are mixed in any ratio. So, and that can be separated physically by either sieving or winnowing or centrifugation or sublimation or fractional distillation in the case of miscible liquids, or by using a separating funnel, that is separating oil and water. Okay, so in that the water and oil, it forms an immiscible liquid. So there are various ways of separating mixtures because they are mainly impure substances. Now let's study about some of the pure substances which are there around us, and also let us study what are these different changes which we can see around us. There are certain changes which happen around us. That is, there is just one state of change from one state of matter to another state of matter, as you learned in the first chapter. For example, you had studied, you can see these are the ice cubes. So ice cubes, what happened when it melts? It just changes into the liquid state, that is, it changes into water. So you can just see it. That is, it is changing into the liquid state. There is ice cube over here. So water again, when you take it and put it in the freezer, it just changes back into ice. And then water, when it is taken in a container and it is heated, so when it will be changing into the water vapor, that is nothing but change of water into water vapor is known as evaporation. Again, the water vapor, when you cool it, you get back water, that is nothing but condensation. That water, when you keep it in the fridge, it changes into ice, the process known as freezing. Now take out the ice and you keep it in a plate and observe for some time. So what is happening? The ice is actually absorbing the heat energy from the surrounding. So it is nothing but endothermic. So it is the heat is entering inside the cube and it is changing ice into water. So that is nothing but, you can see, melting. So here in all the states of water, either it is water vapor or ice, or it's water which is in the liquid state. So there are different states you have seen. Solid to liquid, liquid to gas. Again, gas changes back to liquid and liquid changes back into the solid state. And we have seen the different process. You have studied about it. That is nothing but, you have studied about melting, then evaporation, condensation and then freezing. So all these, what happened, there is only a change of state of matter, but there is no change in the composition of the matter. That is, what is water? That is, water is nothing but, it is made up of 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen, H2O. That is the chemical formula of water. All of you know that. So this same water is nothing but, this ice is also, when it changes into the solid state, this is also nothing but, it is the frozen form. It is also H2O, 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen, but it is in the solid state. So there is just a change of state of matter from liquid to solid or solid state to liquid state, what you have seen. Alright. So here there is no change in the physical composition of matter. So a kind of change where there is no changes in the physical composition of the matter, it remains the same, so we call it as a physical change. Now let's see some more examples of the physical change as I told you in the previous class. That is, you take the salt and dissolve it in water. When you do this, here also, is there any new component form? No, you can separate the salt and water, isn't it? Now tell me, what is the technique you learned to separate? You can separate the salt from water by evaporation. So what happened? Water evaporates and salt will be left behind. So this is nothing but, this is also a physical change. Dissolving salt in water or sugar in water, mixing colors in water, all these are nothing but a physical change where there is no new substance formed. And second thing, as I told you about the ice, which changes into the water, it is nothing but, this change is temporary. Physical change is temporary, that is, and it is Reversible. You can reverse the state of matter. Solid can be changed into liquid. Liquid can be changed back into the solid state. So physical changes are temporary. It is reversible. And another example you must have seen, you have seen around you is nothing but, I hope all of you know this, this is a rubber band. Take the rubber band and stretch it. Is there any new component form when you stretch it? The stretching of rubber band, it's nothing but the same matter because of the elasticity property, it is nothing but it is getting stretched. So this is also a physical change, stretching of rubber band. Okay, there is just change of state of matter, and then when you loosen it, it just comes back to its normal shape. And then plastics, when you can see, when you apply pressure on it, it bends. This is also a physical change. Another example, wood. When you break the wood, it is nothing but it is also a physical change. You can see that there is no new component form. It is only the size of the wood, it is decreased, but there is no new component which is being formed. So all these are nothing but examples of physical change. Another very interesting example which you can see is nothing but here, burning of candle. Here what do you observe? This is very special. Please see carefully. Here there are two processes happening. One, you can see that when I have lighted the candle, you can see the wick is getting burnt, and then you can also see that the wax which is there in the solid state is melting of wax. Again you can see when you cool this, you can see you will get back the solid wax, right? So the melting of wax is nothing but it is a physical change. So the wax which was in solid state, on heating it is changing into liquid wax. You can see the drops of wax which is being changing into liquid, and it is dropping into the container. And then this, if you keep it for some time, when you cool the wax and all which is melted, it changes back into the solid state. So melting of wax is nothing but it is an example of again physical change, since there is no new component form and it is a temporary change, and you can change it back into the solid state, right? But what is happening over here? What is happening to the size of the wick? It is decreasing, it is getting burned, and you can see, if you observe carefully, there is a little bit of black smoke which is also passing, okay, which is being evolved from this. So black smoke is evolving here, which is going, so there are two kinds of changes which is happening in burning of a candle. One, there is a physical change, that is a melting of wax, but there is also a change where there is a new component form and the product is released in the form of gas, that is carbon dioxide, and along with the carbon dioxide there is little amount of water vapor which is also evolved. So when you burn candle, that is nothing but it is made up of carbon and hydrogen, CXHY. When it is burned, what happened? The product form will be carbon dioxide and water, and large amount of heat energy is evolved. It is hot, so it is exothermic reaction. So this burning of candle is nothing but it is an example of chemical change, right? And here what happened? New component is formed, new product is formed. This is a reaction or reactant, but the product formed is carbon dioxide and water. At the same time, heat energy is evolved. So burning of candle, you can explain it as two ways. One is physical change and other one is chemical change. Physical change is nothing but the wax which is getting melted and it is changing into the liquid, and chemical change is nothing but burning of the wick. The product of that carbon, that is the carbon and hydrogen present in the wax, is getting burnt. It is changing into carbon dioxide and water, and large amount of heat energy is evolved. Next, you have seen that. So now I hope you can understand, you have understood the difference between the physical and chemical change. Another example I want you to tell is, suppose there is a mixture. You can see it's a mixture of sulfur and some iron particles, right? So let's see how we can separate it and whether it is a physical change or a chemical change. So I have a small piece of one substance in it. You have to tell me what is this. When I am bringing close to these iron nails, iron clips and all that, it is getting stuck. Can you see this? So what is this object which has attracted the iron pieces, iron pin and clips and all? This is nothing but magnet. So what happened? When you have the sulfur and the iron particles in it, and when you just run the magnet on it, what happened? The iron particles get attracted by the magnet. Is this a chemical change or is it a physical change? Is there any new component formed over here? No. So when you remove it here, remove the iron pieces, you get back the same pin. So which change it is? It is a physical change. Alright. So if you have magnet in your house, you can try out this also. It's a wonderful experiment. So here you can see that the magnetization of iron, okay, by the attraction of magnet, the iron pieces by the magnet is nothing but it is a physical change. No new component is formed. The change is reversible and it is temporary. That is another example. Now suppose what you can be done is how to, when this iron nail and sulfur, iron is nothing but the symbol is Fe, and when sulfur is there, when it is heated, what happened? A totally new substance is formed. You get iron sulfide, and iron sulfide, when you get it, it is neither attracted by the magnet nor the sulfur will lose its property. Iron nails will lose its property. Sulfur is not soluble in water. It is soluble only in the solvent known as carbon disulfide. So all these properties are lost. So that means there is a change which has happened which is permanent. New component is formed and the change is irreversible. So that kind of change is known as chemical change. So let's see what are the examples of chemical change. Chemical change, for example, the first one, burning of matchstick. Alright, so when you burn matchstick here, there is phosphorus. The chemical which is present at the tip of the matchstick is nothing but phosphorus. Highly reactive, and when you burn it, you can see that the white smoke is evolving. So it is nothing but again the example of a chemical change. And when you put off the light here, when it is burning, you can just see that new product is formed. Can you bring back to the original state? No, new component is formed. So what kind of example it is? It's an example of chemical change. The change is permanent and irreversible. Another example of chemical change you can see is nothing but the burning of paper, okay, which is made up of cellulose. Again, carbon compound is there. So when you burn paper, you can see that you can get the ash. The ash is formed over here. So here also you can see that new component is formed and you cannot get the new, that is a paper back, because it burns and it forms only, that is the nothing but the ash which is formed over here along with the evolution of carbon dioxide and water. So burning of paper, burning of that is the matchstick, all these are example of chemical change where new product is formed. Another example which I'll be showing you is nothing but burning of camphor. Camphor, I told you, it is a sublimable substance which you have learnt in the last class. So camphor also, it burns, and then here also it is nothing but a chemical change. Camphor is also a carbon product, sublimable product. So here also burning of camphor is again an example of chemical change. So like that you can see a variety of changes around you which is physical or chemical change. Hope you have understood that. Now the remaining what we are going to study in this topic is about the next kind of substances which is known as elements and compounds. Now what are elements? Elements are nothing but pure substances. They are made up of only one kind of atoms, and atoms are the smallest particle of an element. So elements also, again, it can be classified as metals, non-metals, metalloids and noble gases. For example, some examples of metals which you have learned is nothing but, that is a wire. You can see here it is copper. Copper is an element. Gold. Gold is this is an example, bangle which is made up of gold. It's an example of metal. Then you can see steel which is made up of iron. It's an example of metal. And hammer. Here this is made up of iron and this is a wood. So what is wood? Wood is nothing but it is non-metal. This is a metal. And now you can see another one. All of you must have seen this. All of you like to eat chocolates. What about the chocolate wrappers? Cadbury's wrapper. You just see outside there is a nice printing, but have you seen it, the inner part? You have to collect that and keep it. So this is nothing but it's also an element. Which element is it? Aluminium. And you can see so nice thin sheet it is made into. So which property of metal will be that by which the aluminium can be beaten into this thin sheet? We learnt it last year. Can you remember that? It is known as malleability. And another property you can see that it is shining. So what property of that is it is a metallic property by which metals shine. It is they have luster, they shine. And another property you can see that metals that is when it is hit, it produces sound. That means metals are sonorous. So metals are sonorous, they have luster, they are malleable. And one more important property, you can see it can be drawn into wires like copper wire. This is rubber, non-metal, okay, insulator, and this is the conductor. So here what happened, this copper wire is used over here because metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, and this rubber which is there, it is you have learned it last year, it is a thermosetting plastic. So it is a poor conductor of electricity. So this is another one important one. And the property by which metals can be drawn into wire is nothing but ductility. And whereas the non-metals, when you see it like the wood or the plastic or paper, all these, they are non-metals. They are not lustrous, they don't produce sound, they are non-malleable, they are non-ductile, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. And when these different elements they combine, you get a new product, that is in a fixed ratio. When these elements combine, like a metal and a non-metal, if they combine, like sodium combines with oxygen or iron combines with sulfur, you get a new compound, new product, that is known as compound. So compound is another type of material which we can see around us, that is two or more substances or elements or compounds combined to form a new product, new substance, that is known as a compound. But how are they combined? In a fixed ratio. Like in water, H2O, the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen which is combined is 2:1. Two atoms of hydrogen combines with one atom of oxygen to form the compound. So water is not an element, it's not a mixture, it is a compound, right? But the air which we breathe has nitrogen and oxygen, so it is a mixture because it has a different ratio of oxygen and nitrogen present in it. 78% nitrogen and around 18% oxygen in it. So they are fixed in any ratio, and the ratio might vary on different region. So water is a compound, then salt, NaCl, sodium chloride, it's a compound, copper sulfate is a compound, zinc sulfate, iron sulfide, that is when iron combines with sulfur, you get iron sulfide. When zinc combines with sulfur, you get zinc sulfide. So all these are examples of compound. So now you have learnt about what is a physical change, what is a chemical change, and you have seen a lot of experiments. And then what are elements? Elements can be classified as metals, non-metals, noble gases and metalloids. And then at the same time I have told you what are the different properties of the metals and non-metals. And then I want you to collect the different types of pictures of physical change and pictures of chemical change and stick it in your activity book. In the last class, I had told you to perform one activity on chromatography. Only 1 or 2 students have done that experiment and have shown it to me. So the experiment, you can see it here, that is which I have done is nothing but chromatography here. You can do it at home. You have to take a tissue paper and you have to take a sketch pen and mark it below with a sketch pen and dip this in a bowl of water. Alright, leave it for some time, and then you can see the water is a solvent which will be absorbing, which will take that solute, that is the dye, along with it, and then a range of colors you'll be getting it. And you can see on the top there is green color, below there is pink color. So which color I had used? Brown. So in that you can see the chromatography is a technique of separating different colors of a dye. The color which is more soluble in water will move more fast, and which is less soluble will be traveling very slowly, and it will be at the lower level. So this I want all of you to do the experiment and stick this in your class book or your activity book. So now let's study more about this. I want all of you to look into the slide and the explanation and understand what is metals and non-metals and their properties. So children, we had learned about the physical change and chemical change. Now look at the flow chart of elements. Let's study the different classification of elements. Elements are nothing but they are pure substances, and they are made up of only one kind of atoms. And there are 118 elements which are being discovered so far, and out of that 92 elements are naturally occurring and remaining are man-made. And out of that we can classify some of the elements are radioactive in nature. So elements can be classified as metals, non-metals, metalloids and noble gases. So metals, as I told you the example, metals are lustrous, they are sonorous, they are ductile, they are malleable, as well as they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Some of the examples of metals are gold, iron, potassium, silver, aluminium, mercury, gallium, cesium. And these whole metals, non-metals, metalloids, noble gases are placed in a table known as periodic table. Periodic table have many vertical columns and horizontal rows. The vertical columns are known as groups and horizontal rows are known as periods. These vertical columns are known as groups. Like this, from top to below if you go, they are groups. And the horizontal rows are known as periods. So, in the modern periodic table, there are 18 groups and 7 periods. And in the periodic table, when you see it in the slide which I have shown to you, that is, the metals are placed on the left hand side and the non-metals are placed on the right hand side of the periodic table. And noble gases are placed on the extreme right hand side of the periodic table. So the metals, the gold, iron and all, they are all in solid state. Potassium is solid, silver, aluminium are all solid in state. And potassium is highly reactive metal. Another highly reactive metal is sodium. They produce hydrogen gas when you put it in water or when they are taken out. And very importantly, normally all metals are in solid state, but there is one metal which is in liquid state. Can you say which is that? That is mercury. Mercury is in liquid state, and you know where it is used? It is used in the thermometer to measure the temperature of human body. And another two metals are gallium and cesium. They are little bit above the room temperature. They are also found in the liquid state around 303 Kelvin state. You can see they are also in the liquid state. Now, highly reactive metals are placed on in the first column, that is group number 1, and it is known as alkali metals. You will be learning about the classification in the next class. Then non-metals. Non-metals are placed on the right hand side of the periodic table. In that, carbon, it is solid in state, sulfur is also solid, phosphorus is solid, chlorine is a gas, okay, and then bromine is the only non-liquid, that is a non-metal which is in liquid state, and mercury is a metal which is in liquid state. These two are very, very important. Next, metalloids. Metalloids are nothing but these are placed between the non-metal and non-metal, and they have intermediate property. They show some properties of metals as well as they show some properties of non-metals. So they are metalloids. Example of metalloids are boron, silicon, antimony, all that are metalloids. Then non-metals, as I told you, they are non-lustrous, they are non-sonorous, they are not malleable, they are not ductile, they are not good conductors of heat or electricity. But there is one non-metal which is good conductor of electricity, that is graphite, one allotropic form of carbon. And then finally we have the noble gases. Noble gases are placed on the extreme right hand side of the periodic table, that is they belong to group number 18. They are inert in nature and least reactive. They are found in the atmosphere in very, very less percentage. And some of them like helium and all are used in the hot air balloon. That is, earlier hydrogen was used, which is a lightest gas, but it is combustible nature. Hydrogen was replaced by helium. These all are argon and neon and all are used in the light. That is flashlights and all, you can see it in the stadium and all, they are used in the light and all. So the elements I told you, they are pure substances, and one important thing about elements are, these elements, they cannot be broken down into smaller particles by any physical or chemical method. Then elements combine to form compounds. So let's see the reaction of that is elements, how it will form the compounds. So now look at this reaction over here, that is the reaction of, I showed you one example, iron. Iron, the symbol is Fe. It reacts with sulfur. Okay, so when iron and sulfur is there, it is a mixture. It can be separated easily by using a magnet, because iron is, it can be attracted by the magnet. And then, but when iron and sulfur is heated, it forms a compound. namely FeS, or it is known as iron sulfide. So what happened? These are the reactants and this is the product. So when iron combines with sulfur, you get iron sulfide, that is a new compound, and this new compound has different properties than the iron and sulfur. Iron is magnetic in nature, but iron sulfide loses its original property. It is not magnetic in nature. Sulfur is soluble in carbon disulfide. It is not soluble in water. But here sulfur, that is completely when a new compound is formed, it loses its original property. Next example you can see, if you take this iron sulfide and then add dilute sulfuric acid H2SO4, that time you can see this iron reacts with sulfate and it forms another salt, that is it will form FeSO4 and plus hydrogen gas is evolved. Alright, so hydrogen gas is highly combustible, and when iron sulfide is treated with sulfuric acid, iron combines with sulfate here, that is an anion, and forms iron sulfate, and then remaining, that is hydrogen gas will be displaced and hydrogen gas is formed. And hydrogen gas, how you can test it? It gives out a pop sound in the presence of a burning splinter. Now if you take here another acid, instead of sulfuric acid, if you take iron sulfide and treat it with dilute hydrochloric acid, dilute hydrochloric acid is HCl. So iron is more reactive than hydrogen, it displaces hydrogen and it forms FeCl2, iron chloride. And then what is remaining here, you can see that it forms, and this hydrogen combines with sulfur and it forms another gas known as H2S. H2S is nothing but hydrogen sulfide. It has a characteristic rotten egg smell. So this hydrogen sulfide gas has a characteristic rotten egg smell, that is, and here you can see, to balance the equation, here there is 2 chlorine atom, here there are 2 hydrogen atom, but here it is only 1. So according to law of conservation of mass, the number of atoms on the reactant side should be always equal to the number of atoms on the product side. So you can balance it, but you should not put it below, you have to put 2 in front of this compound, so it forms 2 HCl. This is how we will have to balance it, which you are going to study in the next chapter. So here what you have seen, that when one element which is a metal combines with a non-metal, you will get a new compound, that is iron sulfide. So the compound is a substance with totally new properties. It will not have any characteristic property of original component like iron or sulfur. Now if you take iron sulfide and add dilute sulfuric acid into it, there you will be getting a salt, iron sulfate, plus highly combustible gas, hydrogen is formed. And hydrogen is neutral in nature. It will not show any change in the presence of the litmus paper, red litmus or blue litmus, and it is also highly combustible. It is colorless, odorless, neutral, and it is highly combustible gas. Now if you treat iron sulfide with hello, H2S ഇവിടെയും വരും. So we had learned about the different classes of classification of elements into metal, non-metals, metalloid and noble gases. Now let's see that is chemical changes what we had studied. I told you when iron combines with sulfur, or that is in the presence of that salt, that is in the presence of an acid, what can be produced. So in chemical changes, that is when iron is taken and when dilute sulfuric acid is added to that, this hydrogen will be displaced by iron and you will get a salt, iron sulfate, FeSO4, and at the same time a highly combustible gas, hydrogen gas is released. Okay, so another example, iron when it is treated with dilute hydrochloric acid, that is HCl, this iron combines with the anion chlorine and you will get FeCl2, that is iron chloride, and hydrogen gas is released. It is produced during that time. And hydrogen gas is nothing but, it is highly combustible, neutral in nature, it is odorless and colorless gas. Now here, that is just to balance it, you can see there are 2 chlorine atoms and 2 hydrogen atoms, but here it is only 1. So you can balance it by putting that 2 not as a substrate, but you must write it for 2. That means you have to write in front of the compound. So this is how you are going to balance the equation. So whenever you write the equation, it should be properly balanced. You will be studying more about that in the next chapter. Then I told you another element is iron, which is a metal. It combines with a non-metal sulfur to form a compound, iron sulfide. So these are elements and this is a compound. So what is the difference between element and a compound? So as I told you, elements and all, it is a pure substance, even compound is a pure substance. Element is nothing but it is made up of only one kind of atoms, and element, if it is broken, when you break it into smallest, tiniest particle, it will be still element. That means elements cannot be broken down into any smaller particles. The smallest particle of an element is compound, is an atom. But you can see over here, FeS, it's a compound. So what happened? Iron is magnetic in nature. So when magnet is brought near it, you saw how ions are attracted by the magnet. And sulfur is a non-metal which is not soluble in water, but it is soluble in a solvent known as carbon disulfide. So when this metal and non-metal combines, this is the reactant and a new product is formed. So a new compound is formed. This compound will have totally different characteristics of that iron and that of a sulfur. But in mixture, what happens? The components will be having its own characteristic property. In a mixture of iron and sulfur, iron will have its magnetic property, sulfur will have its own property. But when a compound is formed, when iron and sulfur is heated, the compound, that is the elements in a compound will be totally losing its original property. So iron sulfide which is formed, it will be neither magnetic, neither the sulfur in it, it won't be soluble in carbon disulfide. So it forms an homogeneous, that is compound will be mixed thoroughly, that is a new product is formed. Another example is when this iron sulfide is taken, it is treated with dilute sulfuric acid. This iron combines with the sulfate to form iron sulfate, and another gas, rotten X smelling gas, hydrogen sulfide is evolved. So you will be getting here FeSO4 plus rotten X smelling hydrogen sulfide gas is produced. So that is sulfide. Whenever sulfide is treated with dilute acid, you will get salt FeSO4 plus H2S. And then you can see here, this is hydrogen, it's a balanced equation, FeSO4, and there are two hydrogen atoms, it combines with sulfur to form rotten X smelling gas, hydrogen sulfide, which is slightly acidic. It is a colorless gas, but it has a smell of rotten egg. Next example, iron sulfide, when it is treated with hydrochloric acid, this iron, it will react with the chlorine, there will be and then you will get a salt, that is iron chloride, FeCl2, and again here you will get rotten X smelling gas, hydrogen sulfide. And here you can see it is one, here there is one atom of hydrogen, here it is one atom of sulfur, and here it is two atoms of chlorine and two atoms of hydrogen. Is it balanced? It's not a balanced equation. So how you can balance it? So chlorine and hydrogen, in which compound it is present? In HCl. So this 2 should be written in front of this. So it is a balanced equation now, according to law of conservation of mass. So these are the important equations which you have to learn. One is iron. When any metal reacts with an acid, you will get salt plus hydrogen gas. So instead of iron, if you take zinc or aluminium, it combines with the acid to form salt plus hydrogen gases evolved. Another example is ions combines with a non-metal sulfur to form a compound FeS. So same thing you can do it here is zinc. Zinc will react with sulfur to give zinc sulfide, or aluminium reacts with sulfur to form aluminium sulfide. This is all a direct combination or synthesis reaction. Then if FeS is taken, it is treated with sulfuric acid, you will get salt FeSO4 plus a rotten X smelling gas, hydrogen sulfide is formed. So this is how you have to write the equations. So I hope you can understand the difference between mixture, element and compound. And in compounds and all, if it is FeS or FeCl2, that is the components of a compound cannot be separated by any of the physical method which you have learnt in this chapter. You cannot use sublimation or centrifugation or distillation or evaporation technique to separate the component of the compound. So how you can separate it? You can separate it either by chemical reaction, or there is a reaction known as electrochemical reaction. So in electrochemical reaction, what happened? The salt of that compound or the solution of the compound is taken in a beaker, and electricity is passed through cathode and anode, which is connected to a battery. So that experiment in the next chapter you will be learning it. And when electricity is passed through the aqueous state or solid state of the that compound, what happened? The compound can be separated into metal and non-metal. So which we'll be learning in electrolysis under that chapter in the higher classes. Hope you have understood this much. Now I want all of you to look into the slides and write down the notes neatly in your classwork and perform all the activities which I have told you. First one, I told you to do chromatography. Second one, all of you should collect the pictures of physical change and chemical change and stick it in your activity book. Okay, so now let's look into the chapter. So children, we had discussed about physical and chemical changes today, then elements, metals, non-metals, metalloids, noble gases and compounds. So now look at this picture. So here on the left hand side you can see there are many pictures to show the examples of chemical changes, and on the right hand side there are many examples pictures to show you about the physical changes. Now about the chemical changes, examples like lighting of matchstick, then fireworks, okay, bursting of crackers, digestion of food, respiration, rusting of iron, okay, on the vehicles and all. Then that is milk, curdling of milk when vinegar or lemon is added to it. Then the example sodium catching fire when it is brought out or in contact with water. Then ammonium chloride, when it is mixed with water, it results in the endothermic reaction. And when any metal like zinc and all is added to dilute acid, so bubbles of hydrogen gas is liberated. All these are nothing but they are examples of chemical changes where something new product is formed. And on the right hand side here you can see these are examples of physical changes. Here folding of a paper into different shapes while making some art craft work and all. Then filling air in the cycle tire, adding color to the water, then boiling of water, density of certain materials, then beating of iron or metals into sheets or drawing into wire like malleability, melting of ice, melting of wax, dissolving color in water, stretching a piece of rubber band. All these are nothing but it is an example of physical change. So let's discuss a little bit more about it. Now what is meant by physical properties? The properties that can be observed and specified like color, hardness, rigidity, fluidity, density, melting point, boiling point, etc. are all the physical properties of substances. What are the examples of some physical properties? Physical properties of substances come under the general characteristic like state, color, order, density, boiling point, melting point. So for example, state of water, what is the state? It's liquid state. Color of water, colorless. Smell of water or odor of water is odorless. Color of copper sulfate is blue. State of ice is solid. State of nitrogen is it is in gaseous state. Now what is meant by physical change? Physical change is a change in which substance does not lose its identity and changes in the form or state without any change in its composition. It just changes from one state of matter to another, but there is no chemical change in the property of the matter. That comes under physical change. And a physical change is temporary and it is easily reversible. Like melting of ice to form water, water on freezing, you get back the ice. Then why is interconversion of states of matter considered as physical change? The interconversion of states of matter is a physical change because these changes occur without a change in composition and no change in the chemical nature of substance. Give examples of physical changes like rain cycle, boiling of milk, melting of butter, melting of wax, magnetization of iron, ringing of electric bell, dissolution of salt in water, sugar in water, and freezing of ice. All these are nothing but example of physical change. Now look at these pictures. Here again you can see the example melting of ice, then chopping of wood, shredding of paper, then the mixing of different marbles, colored marble, grey and green color and all. All these are nothing but they are physical change. So in a physical change, matter changes but it will not lose its chemical identity. On this side you can see burning of wood or mixing vinegar and baking soda, carbon dioxide gases evolved, bursting of crackers, rotting of banana or ripening of fruit. All these comes under chemical change. So in a chemical change, a chemical reaction occurs and a new products are formed. Next, what is the definition of chemical change? Chemical change is a change in chemical properties of properties of matter, and one or more new substances are formed. A chemical change is permanent and it is not easily reversible. For example, burning of wood, burning of candle, rusting of iron, burning of paper, ripening of fruits, digestion of food, all are examples of chemical change. And here you can see the picture to show these are the iron nails. But in monsoon or rainy season, nowadays you can see how the brown color coating appears on the iron nails. This is nothing but iron comes in contact with oxygen and water present or moisture in the air, and it forms rust, which is hydrated iron oxide Fe2O3.xH2O. So that's the rust is formed, and most of the vehicles and all you can see that the cycle chain and all getting rusted. That is because of the chemical change. Now, what is the main difference between physical and chemical change? In physical change, no new substance is formed, whereas in a chemical change, new substance is formed. Then in physical change, only physical properties of matter change, but in a chemical change, the chemical properties of substance change. Example of physical change is melting of wax, and example of chemical change is burning of wax. Now, next topic we will see is what are elements. Element is nothing but it's considered as a pure substance that cannot be broken down into two or more simpler substances by any physical or chemical process. Element is made up of only one kind of atoms. An atom is the smallest part of an element, and elements can further be classified into four categories. They are metals, non-metals, metalloids and noble gases. Now, you can see the periodic table as I told you. The periodic table it is divided, you can see, into groups and periods. The vertical columns are called groups and the horizontal rows are called periods. In the periodic table, there is 18 vertical columns. So you can count 1, 2, this is the 18th one. So these are the groups. So there are 18 groups and the horizontal rows 1, 2, 3 till 7. So there are 7 horizontal rows called period. And two rows are present below the periodic table. They form the lanthanide and actinide. These are nothing but the elements which are placed in period number 6 and period number 7. So here in the periodic table, you can see on the left hand side and all, these elements are nothing but they are metals. Okay, these are weak metals and these are they are also here it is the active metal. Sodium and potassium are very reactive metals. Then you can see on the right hand side, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur and all, they are non-metals. And this is a group number 17, they are halogen, which is known as a fluorine, chlorine, bromine and all. And the extreme right hand side, these elements, that is the 18 group elements, we call them as noble gases or inert gases because they are least reactive. So neon, they are helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon. They are found in the atmosphere in very less composition percentage. Now you can see these are the highly reactive metals, that is group number 1, we call them as alkali metal. These are alkaline earth metals, and this is group 1 and group 2. And in the middle of the periodic table you can see group number 3 to group number 12. So these are known as transition elements, and here it is known as post transition element, or it is a combination of non-metals, metalloids and some of the metals, weak metals which are present over here, and plus the noble gases. Now some of the elements have the properties intermediate of metal and non-metal. So these elements are known as metalloids like boron, silicon, germanium, antimony. All these are metalloids. So you can see in the periodic table, so vertical columns are called groups and horizontal rows are called period. We have the active, highly reactive metals on the group number 1 and the noble gases as group number 18, halogens group number 17. You will be learning more about this in the higher classes. Now, what are the properties of metals? Metals, the general property are they have luster, means they shine. They have silvery gray or golden yellow color. They are good conductors of heat and electricity. They are ductile, means they can be drawn into wire. They are malleable, that means they can be beaten into sheets. And they are sonorous, means they make ringing sound when they are hit with another material. Then, what are the examples of metals? Some examples of metals are gold, silver, copper, iron, sodium, potassium, etc. And generally metals are solid in nature, but one metal is liquid in nature. Name a metal which is liquid at room temperature, that is mercury, where it is found in the thermometer. Mercury is the only metal that is liquid at room temperature. Now there are two metals which become liquid at a temperature slightly above the room temperature. They are gallium and cesium. Next, you can see what are the properties of non-metals. Non-metals, they don't have luster, they don't shine, they display a variety of colors. They are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They don't allow the electric current to flow through it. They are non-ductile, means they cannot be drawn into wire. They are non-malleable, that means they cannot be beaten into sheet. And finally, they are not sonorous. They don't produce any sound when they are hit. Then, what are the examples of nonmetals? Gaseous nonmetals. Nonmetals can exist in gaseous form or liquid form or solid form. So, gaseous form, let's see the example. We can again classify them as monoatomic, diatomic or polyatomic. Monoatomic elements are made up of only one kind of atom. Diatomic are made up of two kinds of atom, and more than two. They are considered as polyatomic elements. Now, monoatomic gaseous element examples are all noble gases: helium, neon, argon, xenon. Diatomic gases are hydrogen, we call it as H2, oxygen, O2, nitrogen, N2, chlorine, Cl2. That is a formula we shall be using for writing it. Polyatomic gaseous elements are ozone, that is O2, O3, sorry. Three atoms of oxygen combined to form ozone. Next, give example of solid nonmetals. Some examples of solid nonmetals are carbon, sulfur, phosphorus and iodine. Give an example of liquid nonmetal. The only liquid nonmetal at room temperature is bromine. Name a lustrous nonmaterial. A lustrous nonmetal is iodine. Another one example is graphite, that is carbon. Name a nonmetal which is good conductor of electricity. Graphite. Carbon is a nonmetal which is a good conductor of electricity. Two examples of highly reactive metals are potassium and sodium. Now, what are metalloids? Elements which have intermediate properties between those of metals and non-metals are called metalloids. They are generally solid. Examples are boron, silicon, germanium and antimony. How many elements are there in the periodic table? Almost 118 elements are discovered so far, as normal elements and radioactive elements. Out of that, 92 elements are naturally occurring in ores and all, and the remaining are artificially made. They are made by man. What are noble gases? I told you group number 18. Elements are called noble gases. Noble gases are non-reactive and inert gases. They occur in free gaseous state in the atmosphere. They are made up of one kind of atoms, so they are monoatomic. Examples of noble gases are helium, neon, argon, etc. What are compounds? A compound is a substance made up of two or more elements chemically combined with one another in a fixed proportion. These two are important keywords: chemically combined and in a fixed proportion. The examples of compounds are sodium chloride, copper sulfate, water, iron sulfide, calcium carbonate, zinc chloride, carbon dioxide, methane. Now, we had studied about some of the reactions, so let's study a little bit more about what happens when iron reacts with dilute sulfuric acid. Iron reacts with dilute sulfuric acid to give green color salt, iron sulfate, and bubbles of combustible gas, hydrogen. When iron is heated with sulfur, on heating iron with sulfur, iron sulfide is formed. That is a combination or synthesis reaction. What happens when iron sulfide is treated with dilute sulfuric acid? On treating iron sulfide with dilute sulfuric acid, green color salt, iron sulfate and rotten egg smelling hydrogen sulfide gas is formed. Now the equation for these reactions is iron with sulfur. Fe is a symbol for iron. Fe plus S is sulfur. You will get iron sulfide. Iron reacts with dilute sulfuric acid. You will get iron plus H2SO4. Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. So you can see how iron displaces hydrogen. So you will get iron sulfate. Iron will combine with SO4 to form FeSO4, which is green color salt, and hydrogen gas, bubbles of hydrogen gas is liberated. What happens when iron sulfide reacts with dilute sulfuric acid? Iron combines with FeSO4, double decomposition reaction. Fe combines with SO4 to give iron sulfate, and hydrogen combines with sulfur to form hydrogen sulfide gas, which has rotten egg smell. Iron sulfide with dilute hydrochloric acid, FeS plus HCl is hydrochloric acid. You will get iron chloride, FeCl2. That is a molecular formula. And hydrogen combines with sulfur to form hydrogen sulfide gas.
rotten egg smelling gas. And here, that is, these are the reactants and this is the product. So according to law of conservation of mass, number of atoms of the reactant should be always equal to the number of atoms which are participating to form the product. So here it is 2 chlorine, 2 hydrogen. So in order to balance it, we have to write 2 in front of the HCl formula. So this is how we balance the equation. We will be studying it later in the next chapter. Next, state the characteristic properties of hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas is neutral, colorless, odorless and combustible in nature. Hydrogen sulfide gas is colorless, acidic gas and has a smell of rotten egg. Now, what is the difference between mixtures and compounds? Mixture is made up of 2 or more elements or compounds mixed together, whereas compound is 2 or more elements chemically combined together. Mixture, the composition of the component is an airy ratio, but in the case of compound, the composition of component is in a fixed ratio. The mixture shows the properties of the components, but compound shows different properties than the components. The components can be separated in a mixture by physical method, but the components in a compound can be separated only by chemical method, that is electrochemical method. Now finally, let's see the flowchart, what we have learned in this chapter. So matter is nothing but which has mass and occupies space, can be classified as impure substance and pure substance. Impure substance, we have studied about the properties of mixtures, and pure substance which has fixed properties, again it can be classified as compounds and element. So compound we have studied, it can be decomposed into simpler substances by chemical change only and it has a definite ratio. But elements cannot be decomposed in simpler substance by any chemical reaction. And under impure substances, we have studied about homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. Homogeneous have same composition throughout. Components are, we cannot distinguish them between the components, but heterogeneous mixture, they don't have same composition throughout and components can be distinguished easily. And we have learned in the previous class how we can separate the mixtures by various processes. So I hope you have understood this chapter properly. I want all of you to write the notes very neatly and submit it for correction. Thank you, children.